471, where we learn to be a better gamer, and today it's time to get long term. Will you marry me? We're watching a game between Bomber and Ostojiy on Metropolis, a game that generated oh so many incredibly long games. This actually was a particular point of stress at the Red Bull Battlegrounds, an event that I did a lot of the production work for, helped set up a lot of the crew, doing a lot of scheduling and that sort of stuff. And I was like, oh yeah, Metropolis needs to be in that map pool. It's such a brilliant, amazing map, right? Well, the venue closed at midnight. And everything got put behind schedule because every fucking game on Metropolis was like an hour. And I was like, how exciting! Another fun-filled hour-long game. How epic! And I was just sitting there like, how are we gonna finish the show in 3 hours? It was such a giant stress thing, but you know what? Husky StarCraft, once again, helped open up a third stream and helped close the show out on time by casting all the Group C matches, one of the games of which was this one. So huge props to Metropolis for both being a great game for StarCraft 2 and not a great game for people who have to pay overtime. Yes, excellent. Do-do-do-do. Oh, yes, for any of you who did not know Husky was the man, he is the man. Now, let me just note that what we learned in part 1 was very basic. If you didn't know that this was a standard opening for Zerg, or that this was a little bit unusual of an opening for Terran, no big deal. The important aspects are going to be coming up in this mid-game. I think everyone is aware that in these early stages, Marine Medevac Marauder tank, very strong mix. Bomber is literally not going for any tanks at this phase in the game. Just Marauder out of a single barracks, all the rest Marines, and this very unusual early second starport. Once again, if you go for an early 2 upgrade structure, like early double engineering bay or early what the shit? Coming back to 12 minutes. I don't know why my replay did that. Or if you're going for early double Evo chamber, the important thing is not early 1-1, it's early 2-2. And I think Ostojiy correctly recognizes that a third base is coming up, so he's teching to high. This is what we were talking about a lot at the end, but I find interesting that Bomber ends up going for this very early tech lab. This was something that shocked me, and I was thinking that he was going to be going 3 medevac. He's going to be getting a Caduceus reactor to up that medevac energy, but no, he ends up getting very early Ravens. And we see Ostojiy try to do a little poking and prodding at the start of the game without much success. Per usual, if there are no Mutalisks on the field, dropping is always going to be an effective technique, so we're going to be looking for a lot of the dropping that goes on in this game. I'll say right off the bat what the strategies of both players are going to be broadly. Terran has started to learn that Ravens are basically the best unit late game pound for pound. Nothing's better than a Raven. And I mean that quite literally. I'm trying to think of anything that's better than a Raven late game for Terran, and there really isn't, especially considering that it's 2 supply, and all it costs is a ton of gas. It's a lot to get many of them, because you need a lot of bases, you need a lot of time. How do you get this gas? Well, you have to sacrifice a whole bunch of tanks in order to get the gas for it, but they're damn good. And this is because they detect, they have the auto turret, which is just a good damage dealing unit. Point defense drone, which is good at almost anything that kills a Marine gets denied by point defense drone, and ones that don't get seeker missile to death. And the seeker missile has one of the largest blast radiuses in the game. So that's Terran strat. How do I get up a lot of Ravens? And indeed, we see Bomber gets some medevacs up and then goes straight for this double Raven play. So sick. Ostojiy is trying to delay until he gets high. There's the Corvid reactor. Corvid is a family of Ravens, I believe. I've been wrong on this so many times I can't remember. So Bomber is literally going for the SK Terran style, as many of you Brood War fanatics know. Marine Marauder, maximum mobility force, a couple of medevacs, and a lot of Ravens for the big damage deal, everything else that needs to be done. And this sort of dropping, if you were Bomber and you were going for this tankless style, the important aspects are that you have seen your opponent not build Mutalisks. He's going Infestor instead. Because he has not built Mutalisks, it's going to be a lot stronger to do drops. If he is going Mutalisk, don't do the drops. Just do direct attacks more frequently, such as when you hit 2-2. Or you can even wait till you have a few Ravens and then hit 3-3 and push. There's really not very much you can do about it. I'll just say, quite simply, one good Seeker missile can eliminate almost all of Zerg's Banelings. It does 125 damage to the target and some fraction of 125 to the surrounding radius. Always enough to be able to kill a Baneling. Really good. So this stuff is just due to the fact that Marauders have been witnessed. Or excuse me, just due to the fact that Infestors have been witnessed. So this is well, quite honestly, this is bad. He throws down 2 auto turrets, and amazingly has enough mental focus to target fire the creature that it's building, which is kind of neat. But what's neat at this point in game is what's happening in Camp Ostojiy. In Camp Ostojiy, he's... Where'd my train of thought go? Oh yeah, he's going for 3-3. He's going for Ultralisk, but most notably, he's going for a Nydus network. This is a play that we just don't see Zerg players do because they're so caught up in big pushes at the front and all this stuff. But yeah, you know what? Those Terrans are starting to spread themselves out a good bit, so let's exploit it with some Nydus networks. So we're seeing the unusual rush to tons of Ravens from Bomber and the Nydus networking from Ostojiy. Super cool play, and we're literally seeing Ostojiy start to rapidly hit a lot of places at once. Yeah, Bomber is able to take this one out. Doesn't change the amount of damage that's going on in this. And this is where sometimes the unload timing is quite important, to make sure that the Infestors do pop out first, immediately killing stuff. There's a phrase I enjoy using quite a bit called the Nydus drill, which is where if a player is particularly watchful, you can get 2 Nydus networks, and you can be double Nydusing, like Nydus, Nydus, and then Nydus, Nydus, and just trying to force the Nydus worm into his base. And we also see Ostojiy getting quite an edge at this phase in the game. We see another Nydus network popping out. I can't remember where. I think it's... Is it on the island? Where's this Nydus network? You see it there? There's a Nydus worm building. Where is it? I'm actually just going to physically look for it. I don't know. Maybe I'll see it soon. Where is it? Where the hell is that Nydus worm? Where's the Nydus worm? It's really hard because Ostojiy's purple on this map, so I keep losing track. There it is. Yeah, the Nydus worm, sure, it can do awesome stuff like, you know, unburrow right here, but even distance Nydus networks are amazing late game, especially when you're a Zerg player and you've managed to get your money 8 gas. Obviously, you want the money 10 gas and eventually 12 and 14 and all that sort of good stuff. We're seeing Ostojiy was super on top of those upgrades. And it's just done a fantastic job forcing his way into Bomber's base. I would be hard-pressed to find any style that Bomber could do right now that would not permit this to get started. It's so cool. I mean, imagine if a player's going for a more aggressive Marine tank style. We have all our Infestors and our Marines, and we're getting the Ultralisks up, so we defend, and then, whomp, we go for the Nydus network in the main. I'll note right now that my encoder is dropping frames like crazy. The audio's going out just fine, so I'm actually going to hang here for a minute while it drops all the frames. What is going wrong? Don't refresh, just hang out. Just hang out. Setting it to subscriber chat. Subscriber chat. Alright, we're just hanging out. We're dropping all the frames. Dropping all those frames. Dropping the frames. Dropping frames. I'm just gonna sing till the frames stop dropping. Excellent. Alright. Everything looking quite good right now. Let's come back to what we were saying before. This style of strategy, this Nydus worming, sure, Bomber was being ultra passive throughout the entire time. However, even if he was going for some sort of marine tank style, the important aspect is that any marine tank style will eventually want to take this as a fourth base. And when that happens, boom, Nydus worm in the back, Nydus worm by the fifth. It's going to be a very, very effective choice. Really, really slick decision making by Ostojiy, because generally players who go for the Ling Ultra style and then get those infestors. Oh wait, when did this happen? I don't actually know when Ostojiy went for this play, and I think this is a great play. I would ordinarily go back and find it, but this game is so long and so action packed I have no issue just skipping over it. But yeah, most players who go for this infestor Ling Ultra style will eventually do something like go for Broodlords or something more passive. This is an interesting step in between, because we're seeing Ostojiy just do these great multi-pronged attack styles. Hitting with Ultralisks at a ridiculous number of strong angles, denying all these things, unloading a queen, spreading a little more creep. So fucking sick. And Bomber, of course, kind of wants to drop, but he's kind of preoccupied with trying not to lose the game! This is so great. And we're starting to see the strength of having this many Ravens, 10 Ravens out. At this point in time, if we actually look around, Bomber has 2 starports making Ravens and 1 every now and again making Medivacs. It's very easy to do this. You just have all your starports as one hotkey and just hit RR to make the Ravens. And every time you need, excuse me, Medivacs. Ugh, God, that comment is so boring. Made me yawn. I've fallen asleep given that commentary. Yeah, anytime there's something a little weak, you just go for the Medivac. One thing that's quite nice about this Raven mixture is that you have a guaranteed one shot on every single infestor. So in this circumstance, pow. Insta-gib on the infestor. But you're still seeing that even with a relatively small number of bases, 4, Bomber is having an increasingly difficult time covering all the angles that he needs to cover. Because stepping into mid-map like this, stepping right into the heart backside of the base, is so strong. Even in the main base, where there's these durable material auto turrets, or excuse me, they don't have durable material, they still can't cover all the angles. Nydus Worms will absolutely 100% play an increasing role in this matchup. And we're seeing Ostojiy was down by 70 food, but that's an optical illusion. He was up by 10k minerals. And what can you truly do about this point in time? You know, there's a couple of players who have been going for this late-game Raven mix. I know that Last Shadow has been doing this with Mech. Avilo has been doing this with Mech. I don't know if Avilo has been doing it with Marine Marauder or not. Bomber now trying to do it. This is one of the first times that I've ever seen a Terran player try to do it with the Marine Marauder composition, which totally tickles my StarCraft organs. Oh my god, it makes me just all shivery and stuff. We heard another Nydus worm pop up. I don't know where. No big deal. So yeah, we're starting to see slowly this transition to the Greater Spire. Obviously, Broodlords are one of those great, like, blast the front down type stories. But I don't I don't think that the speed that players are getting it are as justified. I like the sort of slow, like, well, you know what, I'm going to get Ultra Ling, and I'm going to make that Ultra Ling good, damn it. I genuinely think that's a much stronger play. Obviously, the Burrowed Lings with Ravens underneath it, not going to be nearly as good, but sure, all those Seeker Missiles wear off. And it's funny because as you look at the mini-map, you see this huge creep spread. Let me just show you what this looks like from Bomber's point of view. Bomber has only seen the skirting edge of this. You see this huge gap where he doesn't see? This is the amount of time Bomber's been spending defensive. Same with this base. He doesn't even know that this base is done, vision-wise. This base actually hardly looks populated to his point of view from the last time he looked at it. He doesn't know about these bases going on in the middle, and he won't know about these bases that are coming up on the islands. This is all around a brilliant, 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 brilliant play from our good friend, Dr. Ostojiy. And I don't mind this sort of play by Bomber. I mean, Ostoji's just a little bit too on top of his game, but also, if you build a Nydus network up here in the back base, you can just simply rally your whole army to the Nydus networks and just start churning out units that you need. So Ostojiy just doing a very simple, hitting back, hitting forward. Bomber will try to make occasional attempts forward. Ostojiy will recognize and rally down bottom right. Still more attempted plays by Bomber. But already you're seeing why this game I love so much. This is probably the phase in the game that continues for the longest, where we just see Bomber essentially locked down to 2 bases. With his excess minerals, he's getting mules, so that way he can slowly phase out the droning portion of things. Alright, I finished 1 coffee mug. Time to move on to coffee mug 2. And I'm going to ask a silly question. Actually, I'm going to back up to here. If you are a Bomber, what is your goal in this game? What is your goal? What is your goal? What is your goal in this game? Obviously, getting this 5th base up is going to be of, like, clear goal because it's the expansion that's, like, what, 20 hexes away from your current expansion. What is the goal? What is the goal of this? What is your general broad goal? What is your goal? Universally, goals are based around expansions. I mean, even remember the old Lost Temple? Remember that bullshit terrible map where you had a really easy to abuse high ground at your natural expansion at base 2? You could drop a Thor on there and you could kill the Zerg base. Ugh. So you saw these fast drop strategies. So your goal, note that you can state that in terms of expansions. All goals are stated in terms of expansions. In that Lost Temple circumstance, your goal is to prevent him from having a comfortable, safe second base. In this circumstance, if we look at these, we can see that the goal, the very clear, simple, crisp, easy to see goal, is to prevent Zerg from getting this base and this base. We have a much more powerful army due to our 10 Ravens. If we can lock him out of this base, and if we can lock him out of this base, we will be his 5 bases versus our 5 bases, and we will always be stronger. Very simple goal. So this ends up being a very, very clear, simple, standard NP goal. Alright, 2nd coffee mug done. I guess I'm all water for the rest of the day. This, I think, was just kind of one of these, holy crap, I haven't been experienced with this sort of, like, massive play from Nydus Worms before, so I kind of forgot about these medevacs, but this play from Bomber, he wants to step forward, obviously, kill off whatever is in his way, kill off this base, and then just go home. Ostojiy, likewise, desperately wants to conquer these two central expansions, or the islands, one of the two. That is going to be his primary goal in the late game. Let me try to speed this up, and I'll do this section for about 2 more minutes, but I just want to give credit to Ostojiy for doing this on an extremely defensive positioned map, always having some way to apply pressure to the Terran player that is really annoying and powerful. Seeker missiles go down. Keep in mind they do friendly fire damage. So, Ostojiy's literally never done any sort of big shove at the front. And this is kind of an interesting transition from, there we go, from Bomber, is he's been getting these 2-2 upgrades for his ship plating this entire time. There it is. He's still continuing to be as aggressive as he. I don't think anything happens for the next little bit of time, so I'm trying to chug things right along. Totally beautiful game. Absolutely love it. Oh! Total dud. Bomber eventually transitions into this battlecruiser mix. And I would say on many maps, this transition to battlecruiser is not necessary. On almost any map, I would say that this is not necessary. But there are islands on this map that I think are going to make the battlecruisers a little bit more important. Just as critical as it was for us to control Zerg from getting these 6th and 7th bases up, we want to be sure not to let him get these island maps up. Or island expansions up. And as Bomber, we are going to try to conquer them ourselves, so the battlecruiser is a reasonable selection for our play at this point. I need to use the restroom, so we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're just going to finish up this game. Might be a little bit longer, part 3, but that's okay because I love this game.